everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. So for today's video, I'm going to be making a card using this Autumn Leaves Flower stamp set. This card will measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So the very first thing I'm going to be doing is taking this stamp set and creating my own pattern background. The paper I'm using is from Recollections. It's like their khaki cardstock. The ink I'm using is from Simon Says Stamp, and it's their khaki ink. I don't have any particular way of how I'm actually creating this pattern. I'm just kind of stamping it wherever I please. Just to kind of protect my work surface, I'm just using this scratch paper that I have. So since I decided I was going to be stamping off a couple of times, I just want to ensure that my work surface doesn't get ruined, by the ink. So once I was kind of happy with, the different places that I had used to stamp this flower background, the next thing I decided to do was take a white piece of paper, and it's a Recollections paper I have here in my stash, and I cut it down to 2 by 4 1/4. And I'm going to be using this Just For You stamp sentiment from Stampalicious. And I decided I was going to use the same ink that I had used to create my background, the khaki ink. But sometimes I notice when I use this Simon Says Stamp ink, sometimes it doesn't have that crisp look to it. And especially with the sentiment, I want it to, not look beady or anything. I want the stamp sentiment to look nice and crisp. I decided to use this foam that I had in my stamp set from Close to My Heart. And by doing that, it just helped to give that cushion to the paper, which helped to make my sentiment stamp out nice and crisp. So that's just a really great trick you can use if you want to ensure that your sentiment looks nice and crisp. So once that was done, I decided to kind of create the same pattern that I did with my base of my card on this white piece of paper. I'm using the mint ink from Simon Says Stamp, and once again, no particular way of how I'm, doing it. I'm just kind of stamping it a couple of different places on the white cardstock. Once I was happy with how I had stamped everything on the card, the next thing I decided to do was add a little bit more dimension to this. So I decided to use the same color, the mint color. I had some paper that matched perfectly from Simon Says Stamp, their mint cardstock. And I'm going to be cutting that down to 4 1/4 by 2 1/4, just to add some more dimension to the card. So I found that just was perfect. So the next thing I'm just going to be doing is just adding some adhesive to the paper and then adding it to the card. And that's pretty much it. You could just do that and then be done with the card. The great thing with this card is you can do so many of the cards. You can mass produce this, and it's great to have these cards in your stock, especially if you have a lot of birthdays coming up, or you just want to have a thinking of you or a thank you card, whatever it may be. So it's great, to have a lot of these cards, handy, kind of ready, prepped to go. Once that was done, I decided to add it to my cardstock. I didn't want to have it, I should say my card base. I didn't want to put it in the middle. I just wanted to kind of more put it towards the, top part of my card. So I was pretty happy with it, but instead of just kind of having it like this, which is nothing wrong with having your cards done like that, I just wanted to add a little bit more stuff to it to kind of make it pop. So first I had pulled out these Teresa Collin wooden embellishments, but I decided to actually take that same cardstock and stamp my flower and fussy cut it out, and then to add some more dimension to my card, I used some foam squares to pop up that flower and then add it to my card. So that's another thing you can do if you wanted just to kind of take your card to that, next level of just adding something, some more embellishments to the card. But it looks great, just it being simple, but I just wanted to add a little bit more to the card. Once that was done, I just figuring out which circle to use and decided to use the smallest one for the middle of the card. And then the last thing I decided to do with the card was just kind of make the corners rounded. So I just took out my corner rounder just to round out the corners, and that's pretty much it for the card. A really simple card to duplicate, and definitely another card added to my everyday simple card series. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you leaving any comments, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care.